Hello and welcome. This is TV360 News Now. Thank you very much for joining us. A South African minister has placed the death toll from the synagogue building collapse at 115, a figure that has been highly disputed by Nigerian officials. Speaking after the injured survivors from the collapse were repatriated home, Jeff Radebe, the minister in charge of Pretoria's response to the disaster Monday, said 84 of those who died in the incident were South Africans. But authorities in Nigeria say the figure given by the South African minister is doubtful. Earlier, we put a call through to the spokesperson of the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, Ibrahim Fariloye, and asked for his reaction to the figure given by the South African minister.
Well, just like I said earlier, I don't know how they came about their figure. And you can see all the agencies in Nigeria, the figure they gave to you, I gave to you 86 was what we got as sight. So if there are other things that happen after that, we don't know anything about it. We got 86 dead body, 131 as of Thursday, 3 o'clock, when we close the something.
Is it possible that they might have evacuated some dead people before they allowed you access to the site?
I wouldn't know. And you know, some of the wounded that were taken there, there is possibility one or two of them or some of them died. So okay. That's just I don't know how they arrived at it.
Now, some 350 South Africans were thought to be visiting the church in the Ikotun area of Lagos when the building came down during construction work. Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan, who visited the church on Saturday, promised to investigate the cause of the tragedy. Meanwhile, South Africa's largest opposition party, the Democratic Alliance, says it will push the government to launch a class action against the church. Foreign Minister Stevens Mogalapa said that the fact that rescue workers complained that staff at the church had impeded their work in the immediate aftermath of the disaster meant there could be cause for legal action. Investigation has now begun to unravel what actually caused the synagogue church building to collapse. The church continues to put the blame of the collapse on a plane which was captured on the church's CCTV camera flying over the building shortly before it went down. But government officials are suspecting the construction of additional floors to what was originally a 3-story building could be responsible for the collapse. This next report captures the final day of the search and rescue operation and what lies ahead. It's all quiet now at the site of the collapsed building. The massive heap of debris that once stood at the site is almost completely gone. Rescue is now fully over and new figures have now emerged.
The figure that we have right now is 131 people that were rescued alive and 86 people that unfortunately lost their lives.
Even those figures may not be conclusive, as there are reports that some of those who were pulled out of the rubble alive may have succumbed to their injuries at the hospital.
I want to choose my words so that I do not want to sound callous or, it is not, should I say, strange to hear that maybe a certain number out of the 131 that were rescued here may pass on later. It is possible.
It's also emerged that the building was actually meant for foreign visitors, shedding some light as to why most of the casualties so far have been foreigners.
I just discussed with the man of God and he confirmed to me that that wing actually is the wing for South Africa, for people from South Africa. That is why you find that majority of the people that have passed on are most likely to be South Africans. I'm stressing that word, most likely to be South Africans, just on the basis of what I've told you, that it is the wing that houses them.
The investigative phase of the operation has now commenced. Forensic teams from both Nigeria and South Africa have been combing the site for forensic information. Central to the investigation will be what actually caused the building to collapse. Authorities are suspecting the construction of additional floors to the building which was originally 4-story, could be responsible. But the church suspects sabotage. It's blaming a plane captured in this CCTV footage the very moment the building went down as responsible for the collapse.
Straight true, on the same.
It's a line shared by this member of the church who says he was inside the building when it came down and spent several hours under the rubble before he was rescued with only a minor injury to one of his fingers.
Personally, I believe it's an attack. Obviously everything that's no good comes from Satan. It's a evil attack, But the idea of the theory of people thinking it's a building collapse, it's not possible.
Authorities have now marked some of the buildings owned by the church for test. Among them, its imposing auditorium, which now has additional floors popping up at the top. Now, the Nigerian police force has confirmed an attack by unknown gunmen on Adogo police station in Ajaokuta local government area of Kogi State. The gunmen had stormed the police station on Sunday with dynamite in an attempt to loot the armory, but men of the force on duty aborted their plan. Force Public Relations Officer Emmanuel Ojukwu, in a statement Monday in Abuja, said the attackers set the building on fire, but fortunately no life was lost. The spokesperson added that some of the hoodlums escaped with bullet wounds, adding that the area has been reinforced while frantic efforts are ongoing to track down the fleeing gunmen. Members of the public have been advised to report any person or persons seen with bullet wounds to the police or the security authorities. Meanwhile, no group or person has claimed responsibility for the attack. The World Health Organization says the deadliest Ebola epidemic, which has killed over 2,793 persons in West Africa, has now been contained in Nigeria. The UN Health Agency, which also published the results of the latest meeting of its Ebola Emergency Committee on Monday, said a total of 5,762 people had been infected in 5 West African countries as of September 18th. WHO, in a statement, pointed out that Nigeria, where 21 people have been infected, 8 of whom have died, has not reported any new cases since September 8. It also added that Senegal had also contained the outbreak. Senegal, by the way, has not reported any new cases of the deadly Ebola virus since it registered its first and only case August 29th, a Guinean student, I should say, who has since recovered. The country was hit by the virus at Guinea, where the outbreak began at the start of the year, and neighboring Liberia and Sierra Leone. Now, following numerous calls for school resumption date, of course, to be moved due to the Ebola virus, Lagos State government says schools in the state will now resume October 8. State Governor Babatunde Fashola announced the new resumption date after meeting school administrators and teachers on Sunday. Fashola said the decision on the postponement was taken to allow the state conclude the distribution of Ebola preventive materials in schools across the state. The State Executive Council had also arrived at the decision to accommodate the October 1 Independence Day and the Eid al-Kabir holidays, which were already close at hand. Prior to the new resumption date, schools across the country were directed to resume September 22nd, a date which was greeted with widespread protest over the Ebola outbreak, which has killed more than 2,600 in West Africa. And Guinea, Sierra Leone and Liberia are the worst affected, with the most deaths recorded in those 3 countries. Nigeria's presidency has defended its decision not to award the late Dr. Ameyo Adadevo, the senior physician at First Consultant Hospital in Lagos, who reportedly stopped Liberian-American Patrick Sawyer from leaving the hospital with a National Honors Award. Sawyer had been infected with the Ebola virus and later infected Dr. Adadevo, who treated him. Both of them later died of the virus, but Adadevo has been credited for helping to stop the spread of the virus in Nigeria and paying with her life. Senior Special Assistant to the President on Public Affairs, Donyi Okukwe, via his Twitter handle, explained that the reason was because the presidency cannot bestow the National Honors Award posthumously. There have been quite a few people who believe that late Dr. Adadevo, who died of the Ebola virus, should have been posthumously recognized by the government as a singular act of stopping Sawyer from leaving the First Consultant Hospital saved many Nigerians from contracting the disease. But when this year's National Honours list was released last Thursday, her name was not included. The omission drew criticism from lots of Nigerians. Responding to the criticism, Okukwe explained that the establishing laws of the national honours make it impossible for the president to include her in the list. He, however, hinted that the late doctor would receive a befitting honour and recognition in no distant time, stressing that there was no need to break the law in her favour. The Nigerian National Honours are a set of orders and decorations conferred upon Nigerians and friends of Nigeria every year to honour people who have rendered services to the benefit of the nation. Sierra Leonean authorities have declared the 3-day lockdown aimed at containing the Ebola outbreak a success hours after it ended. The controversial operation, which began Friday and ended Sunday, had been put in place to help stop the spread of Ebola. Head of Sierra Leone's Emergency Operations Center, Stephen Gaugia, said the exercise was largely successful and that the compliance and receptiveness of Sierra Leoneans was overwhelming. Under the plan, no one was allowed to leave their homes for 3 days, allowing volunteers to go door to door educating people on the deadly virus. Authorities say the lockdown had identified dozens of new infections and located scores of bodies. The 3-day curfew is the most aggressive measure taken against the virus yet by a West African country. Sierra Leone has been one of the countries worst affected by the outbreak, with more than 550 victims among the 200 and 600 deaths so far recorded. We'll take a short break now, and News Now will be back shortly.
The new thing in music is African music. It's fresh. It's very, very energetic. Hey, what's up, my people? They call me Two-Face Idibia. And right here, right now, it's One Love all the way from Afrima. Everybody, come out, come out, come out. Afrima Awards. Come out, One Love. Yes, sir.
Lower than the wheat of the desert. Lower than the depths of the ocean. Further than the ice can see. When we talking spirituality, open your eyes, spiritually, free your mind from.
Welcome back. The Supreme Court Monday affirmed the election of Willie Obiano as the governor of Anambra State in southeast Nigeria. The court also dismissed 3 separate appeals challenging the victory of Governor Obiano in the main and supplementary governorship elections held on November 15th, 17th and 30th, 2013. In 3 unanimous judgments, the Apex Court dismissed the separate appeals filed by candidates of the All Progressives Congress, Senator Chris Ngige, the People's Democratic Party, and another one by its candidate Tony Moye. The 7-man panel dismissed all the grounds of their appeal, including allegations that there was massive disenfranchisement of voters and that Obiano was not qualified to stand for the election on the basis that he had engaged in double voter registration. The appellants had filed their various appeals to the Supreme Court challenging the July 26, 2014 judgment of the Court of Appeal Enugu Division affirming the earlier verdict of the Elections Petition Tribunal in Awka. Obiano contested the election under the platform of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, APGA. Acting Inspector General of Police Suleiman Abba has said that the ban placed on police roadblocks across the country is still in force. The IGP, in a statement by Force Public Relations Officer Emmanuel Ojukwu, warned all commands and formations of the force that all semblances of police roadblocks and permanent checkpoints reportedly re-emerging in some parts of the country be removed immediately. Abba said the trend was a serious violation of subsisting order on roadblocks, adding that any police command, formation and personnel who violates the order would face severe sanctions. He urged commissioners of police in the various commands and heads of formations to ensure total compliance with the order. The ban was actually imposed by the former head of the country's police, Mohammed Abubakar, and has been widely commended. Now, no fewer than 23,000 girls in northern Nigeria are set to receive cash to pay for textbooks and other school-related costs as part of a UNICEF-supported program inaugurated in Sokoto Monday. Head of UNICEF Office for North Central and Northwest, Uptal Moitra, said getting girls to enroll and remain in school is particularly important in a country where 10.5 million children are out of school, 60% of them in the north and mostly girls. The program, which is aimed at encouraging parents to send their daughters to school, is jointly implemented by the Nigerian government and UNICEF and is funded by the United Kingdom's Department for International Development, DFID. Alhaji Bello Danchadi, the Commissioner for Education in Sokoto, speaking on behalf of Governor Aliyu Wamako, said the cash disbursement will continue every quarter for the next 2 years. That's a good initiative, by the way. Global rating agency Standard & Poor's S&P has affirmed its BB- rating on Nigeria. S&P in the latest rating on Nigeria stated that the country's outlook remains negative, pointing out that there was at least a 1 in 3 chance that it could lower the ratings on Nigeria if institutional governance effectiveness deteriorates or if fiscal or external balances weaken beyond current projections. S&P blames the negative rating on Nigeria's low gross domestic product per capita, significant infrastructure shortfalls, political tensions and weak institutions. But it is not all bad news for Nigeria, as the rating agency noted that the country benefits from low government and external debt burdens, ample oil reserves and robust non-oil GDP growth. Furthermore, S&P anticipates petroleum prices would largely remain high, which would support exports and government revenues. It also acknowledged a series of reforms in agriculture, the privatization of the power sector, and the rapid growth of sectors such as telecoms and financial services, which have contributed to the country's growth momentum. It, however, warns that oil production has stagnated because new investment in the sector continues to remain on hold owing to the non-passage of the long-awaited petroleum industry bill. The Central Bank of Nigeria says it has refunded over 17 billion naira to customers who were fraudulently charged by various banks as at August 2014. Head of Consumer Protection Department of the CBN, Hajia Khadija Kasim, speaking at a press briefing to mark the commencement of the Financial Literacy and Consumer Awareness campaign in Calabar Monday, said the action was done following about 5,500 complaints received from bank customers. Kasim urged customers to question any debit to their account they do not understand and report their various banks, adding that the banks have a period of 30 days to resolve the issues, else they are escalated to the CBN. She also said the CBN was putting structures in place to ensure that consumers got maximum benefits from financial institutions. To the foreign scene now, Ukraine military says it is preparing to withdraw heavy weaponry away from separatist rebel lines in the east. The two sides agreed Saturday to set up a buffer zone in eastern Ukraine, more than a fortnight after a shaky ceasefire came into force. Although the truce is still in place, clashes have continued around the cities of Donetsk and Mariupol. More than 3,000 people have died since fighting broke out in the two regions of Donetsk and Luhansk in April. Ukraine's parliament passed a bill last week granting 3-year self-rule to parts of the Donetsk and Luhansk region, a decision condemned by some MPs as capitulation. Nigeria coach Stephen Keshi has expressed disappointment with the Eagles' recent FIFA ranking while promising that his team will work harder to qualify for AFCON 2015. Keshi assured that the Super Eagles will remain focused towards ensuring they climb up the FIFA ranking as well as qualify for the 2015 Africa Cup of Nations. The reigning African Kings dropped 4 places downward to 37th in the world, according to the September ranking released by the World Soccer Governing Body last Thursday. Keshi said the drop was understandable because of his side's poor form in the AFCON qualifying series, where the boast of just a draw in 2 games, but promised things will work out good in subsequent outings. Nigeria will face Sudan in October to relaunch their bid to defend the trophy won 2 years ago in South Africa. Now, no Nigerian match official will be officiating when the 2014 African Women Championship gets underway in Namibia. The Confederation of African Football simply didn't deem any Nigerian referees suitable for the 2014 African Women Championship. In the list of referees released on its website, 27 referees were picked from 19 African countries to officiate in the 9th edition of the championship. 12 center referees and 15 assistant referees were named to handle matches at the 8-Nation Continental Championship, scheduled to hold from October 11 to 25th. Zambia, Mali, Morocco, Ethiopia, Senegal, Kenya, Ghana and Tunisia have 2 referees each, while Cameroon, Malawi, Cote d'Ivoire, Angola, Botswana, Uganda, Benin, Madagascar, Egypt, Burkina Faso and Togo have 1 referee each in the AWC. Nigeria will be gunning for their 7th title under coach Edwin Okon. Well, too bad for Nigeria. I mean, quite surprising FIFA didn't consider Nigeria at all. I mean, consider any Nigerian referee good enough to referee in this tournament. Quite sad. Well, still time for the future. I mean, still time to get to improve and get us involved in their action. Well, that's it on News Now. We thank you very much for watching. We're back again shortly. See you then.